They said it was a marriage, but it felt more like a sentence handed down by men who never once asked what either of us wanted. And as I stood beneath the burning western sun with dust clinging to my boots and a borrowed ring cutting into my finger, I realized my life had turned a corner I hadn't chosen, because she stood across from me silent and proud, the daughter of a powerful frontier family whose land I had unknowingly saved with a rifle and bad luck. And now the price of that salvation was a vow spoken with clenched teeth. She did not look at me as a bride looks at a groom. She looked at me as a woman looks at fate, steady, defiant, unafraid. And when the preacher finished his words and the crowd scattered like crows, we rode away without speaking, two strangers bound by law and expectation, the wind howling louder than our thoughts. And I told myself this would be a cold arrangement, nothing more than shared walls and separate lives. But the night had other plans, because when darkness fell over the ranch and the lantern flickered against the wooden walls, I became aware of her presence in a way that unsettled me, not because she tried to charm me, but because she didn't try at all. She moved with quiet certainty, removed the weight of the day from her shoulders, and sat across from me with eyes that held stories older than the land itself. And in that silence, I learned more about her than words could offer. Because strength recognizes strength even when pride stands in the way. And when she finally spoke, it wasn't soft or sweet, it was honest. She told me she never asked for this marriage either, that she had been promised once before to a man who never came back from the plains, and she would not be owned again by fear or regret. And something in her voice cracked the wall I had built, because I too was a man shaped by loss, by roads that led nowhere and fights that solved nothing. And as the fire burned low, the air grew heavy with things left unsaid, not desire spoken aloud, but a pull that neither of us wanted to admit. And when she stood and moved closer, not with seduction, but with resolve, the room seemed to shrink around us, her presence commanding without demanding. And in that moment I understood that this was not a woman being given away. This was a woman choosing to step forward, choosing to claim her place in a world that had tried to decide for her. And when she placed her hand against my chest, it was not hunger that stopped my breath. It was the weight of connection, the understanding that sometimes fate does not ask permission. It simply waits until you are brave enough to stop resisting. And I did stop, because in her eyes I saw no weakness, only fire and trust offered without words. And the rest of that night belongs not to detail, but to transformation, because something changed between us, something deeper than passion. Something that turned obligation into alliance. And by morning the sun rose on a ranch that felt less like a prison and more like a beginning. And though the road ahead would be hard-filled with enemies who questioned our union and storms that tested our bond, we faced it together, no longer forced, no longer strangers, but two souls who found truth in the very thing they tried to avoid. And if this story stirred something in you, if you believe the Wild West was built on grit, destiny, and unexpected love, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel Wild West Dairies, because more powerful frontier stories are waiting for you just beyond the horizon.